It had been a week since I left. A week since I had walked out of that house, out of their lives, to find my own path. I didn't know if I had made the right decision. But I knew I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Trapped in the suffocating silence that had once been filled with laughter and the warmth of a family I didn't feel part of anymore. The library became my refuge. Lark had been my constant. Her presence a reminder that not everything in the world was centered around Ivy and my father. We spent hours there, going through old books and talking about anything and everything. It was easier to breathe in that space. To let my mind wander and find clarity in the midst of everything that felt broken. But then came the day when Ivy's voice echoed in my head again. That voice that had always been too calm, too composed, always carrying that perfect, practiced kindness. The voice that now seemed to haunt me, asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. I was sitting at a table in the corner of the library when I received the message. It was a simple text from Ivy. "Can we talk?" I hesitated. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to keep running, but the other part, the part that had always wanted to make things right, knew that I couldn't avoid this forever. "Where?" I typed back. "The park by the river." I knew which park she meant, the Hollow River. The place where my father and I used to go when I was younger. Before Ivy had entered our lives. It was a place that had once felt like ours, like a secret hideaway from the rest of the world. But now, it felt like everything else changed. I stood up, glancing at Lark who had been watching me, sensing that something was wrong. I didn't want to worry her, but she knew me too well. "Ivy wants to talk," I said softly. "Do you have to?" Lark asked, her voice low. I thought for a moment, weighing the possibility of avoiding this conversation for the rest of my life, but I knew it wasn't that simple. "I have to. I can't keep running from it." Lark nodded, not pressing further. She knew I had to face this. I took a deep breath, stuffing my phone back in my pocket, and left the library. The walk to the park felt like the longest one I had taken in my life. Each step feeling heavier than the last. I could feel Ivy's presence before I even saw her, like a shadow hanging over me. When I reached the park, I saw her sitting by the riverbank, her back straight. Her posture perfect as always. She didn't look up until I stood in front of her. And when she did, there was a strange softness in her eyes. A look I hadn't expected, one that made my chest tighten with something between confusion and anger. "Hazel," she greeted me, her voice gentle, "I'm glad you came." I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, watching her. Trying to gauge what she was thinking, what she wanted. She had always been so composed, so controlled. And it felt like she was trying to pull me back into her world without saying it outright. "I'm sorry," she said after a moment, her voice low. "I know I've hurt you. I know I've taken something from you, and I'm sorry." I wanted to say something, to yell at her for all the years of trying to fit into a life that never had room for me. But instead, I just stood there, feeling the weight of the words that hung between us. "I didn't want it to be this way," she continued, her eyes not leaving mine. "But sometimes, we don't get to choose how things turn out. Sometimes, we just have to deal with what we're given." I wanted to scream at her that I hadn't been given a choice. That no matter how much she pretended to care, she would never understand what it felt like to be replaced. "I get it," I said quietly, my voice shaking slightly. "You've built a life with my father. I've seen it. I've watched you take everything, and I've just been the one left behind, wondering where I fit in." She looked down at her hands, her expression softening for a brief moment. It wasn't like that, Hazel. You were never supposed to be pushed aside. But the thing is, she trailed off, as if unsure how to say it. What? I demanded, unable to stop the words from spilling out. What is it? What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? That I'll just accept it? No, she said softly, it's not that simple. She paused, looking at me with an intensity I wasn't used to. Hazel, do you believe that secrets can be inherited? I stared at her, my mind racing to make sense of the question. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She took a deep breath, her eyes searching mine as if she were trying to find a way to explain something that was too complex, too buried to bring to light. I mean, sometimes we carry the weight of things that aren't ours. Things that get passed down, things that become part of us even though we never asked for them. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know where this conversation was heading. But I could feel it, the unmistakable sense that she wasn't just talking about us. She wasn't just talking about her and me, or my father and me. There was something deeper, something darker that had been buried for so long. What are you trying to say? I asked, my voice trembling now. She stood up slowly, her hands clenched at her sides. I don't want to make you feel like this, she said, her voice tight. But I think it's time you knew the truth about some things. About the past, about your father and me. I could feel the ground beneath me shift. Like the world was suddenly tilting in a direction I wasn't ready to go. What truth? I asked, though I already knew there were secrets. There had always been secrets, hidden in the spaces between us. I think you deserve to know, Hazel, she said, her eyes darkening. Everything I've done, everything that's happened, it's not just about us. It's about the things that were passed on to both of us, whether we wanted them or not. I stood frozen, my heart hammering in my chest. I didn't know what she was trying to say, but I knew this conversation wasn't over. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't ready to hear the truth that had been hiding in the shadows for so long. But I would hear it, and whatever happened next, I knew it would change everything. I couldn't move. The words Ivy had just spoken hung in the air like a thick fog. Their meaning just out of reach. The truth, about the past, about your father and me? My voice felt foreign to me, like it was someone else speaking. But I couldn't stop myself from asking. She nodded slowly, her eyes avoiding mine for a moment before meeting my gaze again. There are things that have happened, things you don't know. And I think you're ready to hear them now. The air between us felt charged, like we were standing on the edge of something dangerous. Something that might pull us both under. I wanted to turn away, to walk back to the library, to pretend none of this was happening. But I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot. The words I had been searching for, the answers I didn't know I needed, were just within reach. What are you talking about? I asked, the desperation seeping into my voice. What's the truth? What have you and my father been hiding? Ivy took a deep breath, as if steeling herself for something. Her lips parted, but the words seemed to get stuck in her throat. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice low, almost a whisper. As if the very act of saying it would break something in her. When I first met your father, Hazel, he wasn't the man you think he is. He wasn't just the caring, distant father you know now. There was so much more to him, so much more to us. And there are things in his past that he's never shared with you. Things I don't think he ever intended to. I felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away. What do you mean? My voice cracked as I tried to make sense of it all. Ivy turned away, walking slowly toward the edge of the river. her fingers brushing against the cool surface of the water. Before we got married, before we were even together, your father, he had another life. A life that he kept hidden from me for years. And I kept secrets too. We were both running from things, Hazel. Running from our pasts. And when we came together, it was like we were both trying to outrun the truth. I couldn't process it. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced to connect the dots, but I couldn't find the thread. Why are you telling me this now? Why after everything? Ivy turned back to me, her expression hard but with a faint glimmer of regret in her eyes. Because you deserve to know. Because I'm afraid that if I don't tell you now, you'll keep living with this shadow hanging over you. There's more to your father's past, more to what he did before I came into the picture. And it's not just his secret, it's mine too. It's something we both kept hidden from you. And now it's time for you to decide if you want to know the rest. The words came at me like a tidal wave, and I staggered back as if I'd been hit. What do you mean? I asked again, though the answer was starting to form in my mind. The pieces were falling into place, but I wasn't ready for what was coming next. Ivy didn't move, her hands still resting by her sides. Her eyes focused on me as though she were waiting for me to understand. When we first met, I didn't know who he really was. I didn't know the kind of man he had been before he got into all this family life. But there was someone he had lost, someone I think he never really got over. And it wasn't just his first wife or something simple like that. She hesitated, then let out a long sigh. It was me, or at least, the idea of me. I stared at her, my mind racing. What are you saying? I'm saying, she started, her voice breaking for just a moment before she regained control. I'm saying that your father and I were never meant to be in the way we were. Our relationship wasn't just a clean slate. It was something built on deception, on things we'd both buried. And the truth is, Hazel, you were born from that lie. The way your father and I came together, it wasn't natural. It wasn't meant to be. We both thought we were running from our pasts, but in the end, we only passed on that shadow to you. My chest tightened as I tried to make sense of her words. So, you and my father weren't supposed to be together? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Ivy shook her head slowly. No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't that simple. But we didn't know how to stop it. We were both broken in ways that I don't think either of us understood. We clung to each other, thinking we could make something of it, something real. But now, I see that maybe it was never meant to be real. And maybe that's the one thing your father hasn't told you. I took a step back, unable to grasp the full weight of her words. Ivy continued to speak, but her voice seemed distant now. As if her thoughts had drifted elsewhere. When we started this life together, I knew I was walking into a past I couldn't undo. But I didn't know what it would do to you, Hazel. I didn't know how much it would affect you until I saw how you've been struggling. I've kept so much hidden, and it's been unfair to you. But now you need to understand the truth. That secret, that shadow, it's in you now. And it's something I think you're going to have to face. I could feel the weight of her words crashing down on me. My father's life, Ivy's life, they weren't what they seemed. They were built on secrets, on things hidden from me, from everyone. I had never been the daughter they thought I was. I had been born into a web of lies, into a family that had tried to outrun its past and failed. And now, that past was chasing me down. Threatening to unravel everything I thought I knew about myself. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My thoughts were tangled. My emotions a mess of anger and betrayal, confusion and disbelief. You should go back, Hazel, Ivy said quietly, her voice soft now, almost gentle. I never wanted to hurt you. But this is your story now, and it's time you decided how it ends. As I stood there, staring at her, I realized something. I didn't have the answers. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to be a passive observer in this anymore. I was going to take control, even if it meant uncovering every last secret they had tried so hard to bury. And I was going to make sure that, for once, I wasn't the one left in the dark. The weight of Ivy's words hung over me like a fog, thick and suffocating. I didn't know how to respond. There were too many questions swirling in my mind. Too many things I didn't understand, and no answers in sight. My chest felt tight, my throat dry. I wanted to yell, to scream, to demand that she explain everything. That she tell me the full truth. But instead, I just stood there, paralyzed, as the world around me blurred into the background. The secrets, the lies, the things Ivy had hinted at, it felt like everything I thought I knew about my family was suddenly crumbling. And it was terrifying. What was the truth? What was real? How could everything that had seemed so solid, so certain, suddenly feel like it was built on sand? Ivy watched me carefully, her expression unreadable, waiting for a response. But I couldn't give her one. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know where to start. She sighed softly, stepping closer to the river's edge. The water shimmered in the moonlight, calm and still, like everything around us. But the quiet felt false, like something was waiting to explode. To shatter the fragile piece that had held everything together until now. Hazel, Ivy began, her voice soft but steady. I'm not saying your father is perfect. I'm not saying that everything was right. But what I am saying is that the past doesn't always give us the answers we think we deserve. And sometimes the only way to move forward is to let go of the things that haunt us. I shook my head, the anger building inside me, fighting against the confusion. Let go? You want me to just let go of everything? Of the fact that you and my father built your life on lies? That you've kept me in the dark about who I really am? I'm supposed to just move on from that? Her eyes softened, but there was something cold behind them. Something that made me feel like she wasn't really seeing me anymore. I didn't want it to be like this, Hazel. I didn't want to be the one to burden you with the truth. But I had to tell you. You deserve to know who you are. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The words I had wanted to hear, the answers I had needed, were slipping through my fingers like sand. I had asked for truth, and now that I was standing in front of it, I didn't know if I could handle it. Who am I, Ivy? I asked, the bitterness in my voice cutting through the air. Am I just a byproduct of your broken past? A mistake you and Dad made while trying to outrun your secrets? She didn't flinch, but I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or regret. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words faltered before they left her lips. I never meant for this to happen. I never meant for you to feel like this, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But the truth is, Hazel, secrets, they get passed down, whether we want them to or not. I've tried to protect you from them. I've tried to protect your father too. But in the end, they become a part of us. Secrets, I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. I've spent my whole life surrounded by them. My father, you, and everything you've tried to hide. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for a family built on secrets. Her gaze hardened, and for the first time, I saw something sharp behind her eyes. Something I wasn't sure I was ready to understand. And sometimes, Hazel, she said, her voice suddenly cold. The truth is more dangerous than the lies. The weight of those words hit me like a punch. What was she implying? Was there something more? Something even darker than what she had already told me? I stepped back, my mind racing as I processed everything she had said. So, what now? What do I do with this? With the knowledge that my whole life has been built on things I don't understand? What do I do with the fact that you've been keeping these secrets from me? Hiding the truth? Ivy took a step closer, her face softening as she reached out, almost as if to comfort me. But I pulled away, not wanting her touch, not wanting anything from her. I needed to figure this out on my own. I needed space. I don't know what you'll do, Hazel, she said quietly. But you don't have to figure it out alone. You never have to be alone in this. Whatever it is you're searching for, you can still find it. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Her words felt hollow now, meaningless. Like she was trying to undo the damage done by years of secrecy with a few simple sentences. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Or my father. I didn't know if I wanted to. I turned away, the weight of everything still pressing down on me. Ivy's voice followed me, softer now, more pleading. Hazel, please. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. As I walked away from the river, from Ivy, I felt a strange sense of finality. I was finally starting to see the edges of the truth. And now I had to face it, whether I was ready or not. The night felt colder now, darker, as if the world was shifting beneath my feet. I had left one life behind, and now, as the truth settled heavily around me, I realized I wasn't sure what was next. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going back. Not to the house, not to the life I had once known. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back from that. Whatever the truth was, I would face it on my own. Even if it meant uncovering secrets I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. The following days were like a haze, each one blending into the next. The heavy weight of Ivy's confession followed me everywhere. The words, secrets get passed down, echoing in my mind like a constant reminder that there were things about my life I couldn't undo. I didn't know what to do with the truth I had just learned, or with the even darker secrets that were still buried beneath the surface. Lark tried to talk to me, tried to pull me back into the world where things made sense. Where I wasn't carrying this new burden. But no matter how many times she asked, no matter how many times she told me that I didn't have to figure everything out right away, I couldn't bring myself to talk to her about it. Ivy's words, her questions about inheritance, had shaken me to the core. They left me wondering, what was passed down to me? What kind of life had I really been living all this time? I spent most of my days walking through the streets aimlessly, avoiding home. Avoiding anyone who might remind me of the life I thought I knew. I couldn't go back there, not yet. It wasn't that I didn't want to face Ivy and my father. But I didn't even know how to start that conversation. How do you confront the people who have shaped your entire existence with a truth that changes everything? One evening, I found myself back at the Hollow River. The same park where Ivy had dropped the bombshell. The place was empty now, the trees swaying gently in the wind. The water rippling beneath the dim glow of the streetlights. The air felt colder than usual, but I didn't mind. The silence felt comforting here, as if the world outside didn't matter anymore. I sat on the same bench Ivy and I had sat on that night, staring out at the river. Trying to clear my head. But the more I tried, the more my thoughts tangled. What was Ivy really trying to tell me? What was it that had been hidden for so long? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more, that she hadn't told me everything. And whatever it was waiting for me to uncover it. I ran my fingers through my hair, pulling at the strands as if that could somehow untangle the mess inside my head. I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold it together. But I couldn't keep running from this either. Ivy had already given me a glimpse into the truth, whatever it was that had been hiding for all these years, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending I wasn't curious. I couldn't pretend that I didn't need to know everything. As I sat there, a figure appeared in the distance. At first, I thought it was just someone else out for a late-night walk. But as the figure drew closer, I realized who it was. Dorian, my father, walking slowly along the path, his hands in his pockets. I hadn't seen him since the night I had left. And seeing him now was like stepping into a different world, a world I wasn't sure I was ready to face. I stood up before I could think twice, my heart racing in my chest. Dorian stopped when he saw me, a look of surprise crossing his face. Then quickly replaced by something I couldn't quite place, concern, maybe, or relief. He took a few tentative steps toward me, his voice hesitant when he spoke. "Hazel," he said softly, as though unsure of how to address me after everything. I didn't know where you were. I've been looking for you." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell him everything I had been feeling. The anger, the confusion, the betrayal. But I knew that wasn't what this was about. This wasn't about what I felt in the moment. This was about something bigger. "I needed to be alone," I said finally, my voice quieter than I intended. "I've had a lot to think about." He nodded, his expression softening as he took another step closer. "I understand," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I want you to know, Hazel, I've always wanted what was best for you. What happened with Ivy and me? It wasn't supposed to hurt you. I never wanted to cause you pain." The sincerity in his voice made my heart ache. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to undo everything that had already happened. Everything that had been hidden from me. "I'm not sure I can believe that," I said, my voice tight. "How can I believe you when everything I've been told has been a lie? How can I trust you when I don't even know who you really are anymore?" His face fell, a deep sadness settling over his features. "I know," he whispered. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't even know how to fix what's broken. But please, just let me explain. Let me tell you everything. Everything Ivy hasn't." I took a step back, the distance between us feeling like a chasm I couldn't cross. I wasn't sure I was ready to hear the rest of the story. But I knew, deep down, that I had to. "Okay," I said finally, my voice trembling with the weight of everything I was about to learn. "Tell me everything." As he started to speak, the words tumbled out slowly, like a dam finally breaking. And I listened, my heart heavy, as the pieces of the puzzle I had been piecing together finally started to fall into place. Secrets, lies, betrayals, Ivy, my father. Everything I had known was about to change forever. But this time, I would know the truth. Even if it broke me. And when it was over, I would have to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. The next few hours felt like they stretched on forever. The weight of my father's words heavy in the air between us. We sat side by side on that old bench, the same one I had sat on with Ivy. But this time it felt different. The river flowed in front of us. But I wasn't sure if I was listening to the water or to what Dorian was saying. His voice was thick with regret, each word measured, careful. I had asked for the truth, but hearing it felt like someone was unraveling the fabric of my life right before my eyes. Ivy and my father had never been an open book. The years between them, their secrets, their mistakes, it was all hidden beneath the surface, glossed over by the normalcy of family life. But as Dorian spoke, the lies began to reveal themselves. And everything I thought I knew about my family crumbled. I never meant for it to be like this, he started, his voice low. When I met Ivy, I was already lost. I was trying to outrun my past. I thought I could build something new, something different, with her. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that I had carried my old mistakes into our life together. And those mistakes, they got passed down to you, whether I wanted them to or not. I felt a lump form in my throat, a weight pressing down on my chest. What mistakes? I whispered, even though I already had a feeling I knew what was coming. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and something else, perhaps sorrow. Or regret. Before I married Ivy, before everything changed, I was involved in something that I should never have been. Something I thought I could leave behind, but it followed me. I was part of a group, Hazel. A group that did things I'm not proud of. And when I married Ivy, I thought it was all behind me. I thought we were building something clean. But it wasn't. I took a sharp breath, trying to make sense of what he was saying. What group? What did you do? I could hardly speak the words, but I needed to know. Dorian rubbed his face, his hands shaking as he continued. It wasn't just about me, Hazel. It was about Ivy, too. We were both part of something that connected us in ways we didn't even understand at the time. It was a group of people who were working outside the law. Not criminals, not exactly. But people who were involved in things that were morally gray. We thought we could change the system from the inside. We thought we could fix things. But what we really did was break people. I sat there, frozen, as the reality of his words hit me. My father, the man I had always seen as my protector, had been involved in something so dark, so dangerous, that it had left scars on both him and Ivy, and I had inherited those scars. Even if I didn't know it, it wasn't just his past that had been kept hidden, it was their past. And I had been unknowingly a part of it, just by being his daughter. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart heavy with the weight of everything he had just shared. Why didn't you tell me before? I couldn't, he said, his voice tight with emotion. I couldn't tell you because I thought you were better off not knowing. I thought if I kept you away from all of it, you wouldn't get dragged into it. But it's too late, Hazel. The truth is too big, too important to keep hidden anymore. And I want you to know that none of this is your fault. None of it. I felt a cold rush of panic rise in my chest. So, what? You think I can just forgive you? You think I can just accept this? After everything? No, he said, shaking his head. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just asking you to understand. To understand that what happened wasn't just about Ivy and me. It was bigger than that. It was a mistake that affected everyone around us, especially you. And I don't want you to feel like you have to carry it. You don't have to carry this burden, Hazel. I stood up suddenly, pacing in front of him, my emotions crashing over me like waves. How could I not carry it? It's in me, isn't it? All of it, the lies, the betrayal. You're telling me it's in me, that I was born into something I didn't even ask for. And you want me to just move on? He stood up too, reaching out for me, but I stepped back, out of his reach. I needed space. I needed time to breathe. I'm not asking you to forget, Hazel, he said quietly, his voice raw. But I am asking you to let it go. Let the past stay where it belongs. I made mistakes. Ivy made mistakes. But you don't have to be defined by them. You don't have to carry our sins. I shook my head. How do I let it go? How do I just forget everything you've told me? How do I let go of the fact that you weren't the man I thought you were? How do I live with that? He seemed to falter, like my words were too much for him to bear. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. I don't have the answers, Hazel. I wish I did, but I do know this: you're stronger than both of us. And if anyone can overcome this, it's you. I couldn't stop the tears that started to fall, but I didn't make a sound. I didn't want him to see how broken I was. I didn't want him to see how much I was hurting. But I couldn't hold it together anymore. I need time, I whispered. I need time to figure this out. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Dorian nodded slowly, his eyes filled with regret. I understand. Just know that I love you, Hazel. And I always will, no matter what. I turned and started walking away, not looking back. I didn't know where I was going, or what I was doing, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back to the life I had known. Not yet. Not until I figured out what my place in this world was. The world felt heavier now, and the weight of the truth hung over me. But it also felt like a new beginning. A chance to rewrite my story, even if it meant starting from scratch. And maybe, in time, I would learn to forgive. But for now, I needed to walk this path alone. The only thing I was sure of was that my journey was just beginning.